Sometimes I wonder why I built this canoe. I mean, what kept me going was the thought of setting out on the upper Kananaskis Lake and just, looking around and enjoying the moment with that beautiful, clear, emerald blue water. So I have yet to do that. Maybe at some point it'll happen. I hope it will. There's certainly plenty of beautiful lakes in my area. These first few scenes here just show me with the table of offsets and creating the stations for the canoe form. Yeah, I have to start with a form. I can't even start with the canoe itself. Anyway, I've got some, voiceover happening live on this next set. Just a brief discussion of what's going on here. I built this box beam and I've leveled it out using a laser level. You can sort of see the lines on the garage door there. So I've done that. It's leveled out with some blocks and some shingles. And at this point now, I'm actually setting up the actual forms. You can see there's a bit of a laser line on there. I've laid out the center of each one of these forms. And the laser line then is projected. And I move the forms until it's dead on to the laser line. But also I've set the height as well. I have a little stick here. And I've laid out this stick with the elevation differences. And so what I do is I just put this on top and I make sure that it lines up with my marks. So that's the process for that. As you can imagine, no voiceover on this. I'd sound like a chipmunk for sure. Anyway, this is me just installing the stations into that box beam. Like, I'll be honest, I would never use that subfloor adhesive again, but that stuff just was hard as a rock. And I bumped into one of those stations once and it just was flung right off of the box beam. I think I'd just use white glue or yellow glue next time. Everybody loves a view of wood being planed, and I was kind of aggressive here. Anyway, this is like almost like the ridge blocks in between each one of those stations. Everybody loves to see the Thurlow wood coming off. Here's the overview of the thing, and with some of those two center pieces there. Wow, it's been so long I've forgotten what those two big pieces in the middle are called. Anyway, I used strips of spruce and I glued and screwed them to the stations to create the form for the canoe. I used polyurethane glue to glue these things on, and again, I would never do that again. I would use something else, probably white glue or yellow for sure. Instagram people love this. Here's the view of the form out in the driveway, and I put a coat of varnish over the whole thing just to help prevent, some of the water, steamy water that would be hitting it later on as I bent some of the cedar ribs around it. You can start to see now the beginnings of those metal strips, galvanized tin, and those are where the ribs will be bent around. So I steam bend them and I bend them around that. Then as you attach the planks to the ribs, which have been steam bent around, you nail through with some brass tacks, and those brass tacks then hit that metal strip and they clinch on themselves. And wow, I wonder if I have some images of that coming up. I hope so. Here we have a view of the steam box, and I've got a camp stove underneath it, and it's just feeding straight, just boiling water. It's just boiling water, and the steam is just filling up that box, and I've got the cedar ribs inside that. In the end, I wouldn't use that camp stove again because the fuel was just way too expensive. It was that naphtha or that white fuel, white gas. It's crazy expensive. I am?
Maybe, if it works well.
Just like on videos.
Yeah. I'm gonna get
Wow, it feels like rubber. I feel like this was just a little test here with my son and I, just to see how that stuff bent, and honestly, bent like rubber. Figure out a way to get it flat on top. Also, I probably wouldn't use oven mitts anymore. But you know, you use whatever's at hand. And then this would get attached to the gunwales. I can see why we put something. Yeah, I'm just discussing with my son how this would all go down if we were putting a real rib on there. Okay. Well, just for the lulls. You definitely have to keep that in place. Here I'm testing my strength, as you can see. Good news. That cedar, though, that clear cedar, amazingly resilient. This is, yeah, that little bit there was just the front, the bow and the stern. I had laminated a series of pieces of fir quarter-inch strips. This here is the first strip being bent around the canoe. And so this is going to be one of the real, like a proper cedar rib. First time. I've got a few marks on that cedar rib, so we know. And in the book and on some videos on YouTube and stuff, I saw a massive contraption to sort of brace up against the ceiling, and, you know, big 2x6 with some slots and stuff and wedges. And in the end, yeah, maybe I would have done that. I feel like this worked pretty good. My son was pretty quick to bend that around, and I was more along the lines of, let's just let the fibers of the cedar slide against each other as we go down so that they can form correctly to the galvanized strips. And at the bottom there, you just can't, well, maybe you can see it, just by my son's hand. You can see there's a little C-clamp there that we just put onto the bottom, just to hold them until we can get a nail or two in. And so I'm just grabbing a couple nails there, and I'm just going to nail that with some, wow, I feel like I was using some brass nails just to attach that to the gunwale. I guess we'll work out an exact process here eventually. And yes, that's my little baby hammer. It's not very big. It's very light. I hope you don't think any less of me. Let's go have a look at the other side. Okay, you ready? As you get closer to the front of the canoe, or the ends, you have to taper the ribs a little bit, and so that's what I'm up to here. Here you can see the bronze ring nails where they attach the ribs to the gunwales. And that is just the bulk of the canoe that's been done with the ribs. And here I'm just shaping the stem band in preparation for the ribs to be bent around there. Quite a bit trickier to get those stem bands on. And then here I am starting the process of putting the planking on, and in this case I have been soaking these pieces of planking in a plastic bag, for lack of a better term. Here I'm soaking it again with just a stick with a rag on the end. I dip it into some water, and in a moment I'm going to run a hot iron over that to soften up the wood a little bit. Yep, that's hot water on there. And here I'm about to install the first piece of planking, and I'm using the canoe tacks, which are solid brass. So I'm pounding through the planking, through the rib, hitting that galvanized tin underneath, and then the tack clinches on itself. So the pattern, start at this end here, grab that box, this guy, and just grab a few nails out of there as you go along. And you'll start at this end here, and this will be the pattern. Here I'm just demonstrating to my son how to nail those in. I think in retrospect, if I would do this again, I would take a lot more care with this, because down the road I had to fix a whole bunch of nails that didn't clinch properly. Like I would put like super heavy pressure on that connection as I was nailing it in, just to make sure that those nails clinched properly, because afterwards I need to use a little dolly to get in there and finish them off. This little section here just shows the planks being wrapped in a hot rag there. This is truly the most exciting moment of all. This is where the canoe itself comes off the form. And there's a little bit of a struggle. I mean, some things get stuck. But boy, what a momentous time just to see the inside of the canoe finally. Get yourself on this side.
Just hold it.
I guess these cradles can go a little further.
I got this side here.
All right, there, we'll take that.
Really? That's not good. What are you gonna do with that?
Fix it.
Oh, you have some that split over there? Oh, that's just light.
Here now, you're going to see in a moment that the ends have been finished off. All the planking has been attached to the stem, and we can carry on with the rest of it. You'll notice now that I'm trimming canvas. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just didn't get filmed in those times. I gotta be honest, it was a real slog at some times. You can see I have the thwarts installed and so on. I mean, there's just times where I couldn't video anything or comment on anything. It was really getting me down, and I just needed to get it done. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I don't know, has anybody else ever felt that about a project where it's just weighing you down and you just have to slog through it? So not only has the canvas been stretched around the canoe itself, it's also been filled with something called mastic canvas filler. And I got most of my stuff from orcaboats.ca. Super friendly guy, super good shipping and all that sort of thing. So highly recommended if you're into this stuff. This is the bit here where I start fooling around with the outwales. I need to put a little rabbit on there to clear the ribs and the canvas. So doing some little tests here. Also, one more thing, kids, wear your hearing protection. Highly recommended. I tell you, if I could do this again, I wouldn't use an impact driver. I busted one screw because those are soft screws, that metal right now, and you need to have lots of good clearance on the outside of that thing for sure. At this point here, I'm working on my seats, getting them ready. So as they dry, I can start painting the hull and all that sort of stuff. All the little finishing touches as I go along. feel like if you've made it this long in the video, you deserve a little more discussion about why on earth would somebody make a canoe like this if they're only going to make one. I mean, I can see it if you're going to crank these things out after the fact. I mean, I went to all the trouble to make that form, which ultimately I sold on to Gigi. I probably didn't get quite enough for it, but whatever. I do get a lot of enjoyment out of the process. Just doing things, solving problems, I really enjoy that. And I've made all sorts of weird stuff, and I just love making more weird stuff. Maybe that's why I made the canoe. I mean, what kept me going was that mental image of paddling around the Kananaskis Lakes or Vermilion Lakes by Banff, who knows where I'll end up with that thing. One of the other reasons I feel like I built a canoe was I wanted to go on a river trip with my son. He was working on the Duke of Edinburgh award at the time, and we needed to find some sort of an adventurous trip. And this was in the early days of the pandemic, and so the requirements were altered somewhat, let's put it that way. Anyway, we ultimately borrowed an aluminum canoe from a friend across the way, and we did a 4-day, 3-night trip down the Red Deer River. Such a good time. So I think you can see now what I was up to with my Festool domino there. I was cutting slots there, and all I needed to do was recreate essentially a domino tenon, but out of that hard maple that I'd created. This was, I mean, there's got to be lots of different ways to do this, but I just thought that this would be the cleanest look when I was finished. So in what will become easily the most anticlimactic ending to any video on YouTube, here are my son and I out for a little test spin with the finished canoe on essentially what's a catch pond for the storm system here, just around the corner from our house. So we're just coming into the edge there, the shore, for my other kids and my wife to go for a spin as well. So hey, thanks for making it to the very end here. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the comments. I will try to answer. I'm no expert after all. I only built one canoe and have no intention of building another one. Anyway, have a great day.